Welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today, we're honored to be joined by Don McPherson, a Syracuse football legend, former professional quarterback, college football Hall of Famer, author, speaker, and longtime advocate for leadership, respect, and positive change. As you know, he's right. I'm like a little guy between two big guys here. And also, Ed Theetge, the executive director of the Longhouse Council. They've got a big event coming up on the 20th, which we're going to be talking about as well, called Scout Power. But both of you, Don, Ed, welcome to the podcast. Good to see you both this morning.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Everybody's right on time today, and we're ready to roll.
Absolutely. We're ready to rock and roll.
We are ready to roll. But if I'd like to start with Don just a little bit first. Don, for people who know you from SU football, they know the awards and the undefeated season. How do you describe the work you do today?
Interesting. I've been doing work for close to 33 years now on all issues of men's violence against women, sexual and domestic violence prevention. But the way that I describe it to your question is I've been doing the work that women have asked men like myself to do, but I haven't been doing the work that our boys need. In other words, the positive work, and it's the work that scouting has been doing for decades. Helping boys, helping young people live their authentic selves, live their whole selves. So that's the work that I do. I work around an issue I refer to as aspirational masculinity.
Okay.
Helping young men live in authentic, whole, and evolving selves.
I love that you've gone from quarterback to speaker, author, and advocate. Was there a moment when you realized that your platform could be bigger than just sports?
You know, I think it was my sophomore year. I spoke at Ray Middle School in Baldwinsville.
Oh, yeah.
And students gave me these little coasters that they made for me. I still have those coasters.
God bless. That's so cool.
On my desk, and I have the pictures of talking to those students. And I think it was moments like that when I was in school that I realized that my ability to play the game, which it was God-given. I didn't do much other than work hard to honor that. But that I had a platform to talk about important issues. So I wanted to be educated on that.
Using who you were, what you were, to advocate for what's going on now. I love that. You'll be speaking at the scouting event, which is on the way on May 20th, the Scout Power. We'll talk to Ed about that here in a moment. But when you think about scouting, character, service, leadership, and responsibility, what connects most with your message?
I spoke at the Eagle Scout event a few months ago, here in town, and as I was going through all of the creed and all the different ways, all the different values of scouting, I laughed at myself. What do you need me for? I mean, this is an organization that has been promoting the greater good, has promoting youth development, has promoting honor and respect and loyalty and trust and good, and have been doing it for a very long time. We almost take them for granted because they have been a part of our society for so long, and it's just, as I said a moment ago, the work that I've been doing has been around a specific cause, as the scouting has been more general, more broad in terms of service. But I really believe that there's a lot of synergy with the work that I do with scouting, and it's something that I'm very committed to.
So cool. So cool. I got Ed sitting over here on my left. Maybe you're right as you're looking at the screen, but Ed, let me ask you this. A lot of people hear the word leadership, but they think it means being the loudest person in the room. How do you define real leadership?
So that's a really good question. And I think it comes a lot. I personally had the honor of meeting Don for the first time when he did the Eagle dinner. Nice. And I joked with him that I had no idea who the heck he was.
And he still doesn't have your number in his phone. I want you to know that.
So anyways, okay. But once I learned a little bit more and just sitting with him and at Breaking Bread, I realized how many thought process, how many things that Don is championing, and that is very much in line with scouting. And I think he and I also have a little bit of some personal things that are very synergistic as well. But when it comes to leadership, scouting has done, leadership for 117 years almost at this point in time. And one of the things, we have our 12 points of the Scout Law, and probably is one of those points I probably should say. So, it's trustworthy, it's loyal, it's helpful, it's friendly, it's courteous, it's kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty, brave, clean, and reverent. And every one of those points also has a statement that goes with it to really understand. And one of them that I had brought up to us for a couple times, the things that we're struggling with today with politics, leaders, and all that stuff, is loyalty. And a lot of people kind of talk about, it's like, well, what does loyalty mean? I said, well, loyalty means that you're loyal to your country, you're loyal to whatever program you're part of, but you also take that opportunity to step up and change. If things are not going the way you want them to go, then you need to step up and change. Absolutely. And it's an obligation of scouts everywhere. And I stand by that. Quality humans in this country. You don't sit idly by and say, well, that's who's in charge. Whatever they want to do, that's what they do. If there's something you want to change, you need to step up and you need to do it. And I think that's the leadership I stand by. It's quiet leadership. The person who's standing on the table, jumping up and down and saying, look at me. I'm sorry, 9 times out of 10 are not the best leaders.
Can I just say one thing about what you just said, Ed, because it really just struck a chord with me, is when you go down that list, I can honestly say wow, how many of us do that all the time? How many of us hit all those marks? And I probably don't always hit all those marks. But when you said loyalty, my first thought was loyalty, and this is where I think the synergy, loyalty to good. Right? We're all taught as little kids to be good. We're all taught to be kind. And at some point we learn that we talk about the neighbor, we talk about a relative behind their back, and we sort of break down that sort of don't say anything, bad unless you have something good to say, right? Don't speak. But there's a loyalty to good, a loyalty to the things that we were taught when we were very young about love thy neighbor, treat others as you want to be treated. Those very fundamental ways in which we function as a society. And to me, there's a real need for loyalty to good. And I when you said that, I just heard a different kind of loyalty.
Yeah, I think, and it's a really important thing too. Is I think good is what we all need to be striving for. And I stand by that. Our organization, Scouting, does a really good job of that. And it's one of those things that also, and I served in the military. So, I was in the Army for 4 years, and, I'm sure there's some people out there that'll try to, claim that I'm probably not as awesome. But, that's okay. But I stand by, for me, leadership, and a strong leader is a person who is quiet. And there's a picture that, I don't know where the heck it came from. It's a hand drawing, but it's, it's just this knight in shining armor, all bulked up, looking like he's got all the sharp edges and stuff, but he's holding this little itty bitty kitten in his hand. And it's like the true thing of strength is when you have all the power, how do you treat the person with no power?
That's right.
And that's the one thing I like to hold on to.
It's all about power, but it's good.
Yeah.
It's good power.
It's good power.
That's great. I'm glad you brought that up, because kind of thinking the same thing, and it all goes together. Yeah. And Don, of course, is the keynote speaker with the upcoming dinner on May 20th at the JMA Wireless Dome, we might add. It's going to be a great night. Can't wait to hear what you have to say. I know I've spoken to you before. No, because it's so motivating and it really makes you think. And when we're together with the Scouts and you doing what you're doing, there's no better collaboration, no better partnership than having you there and being able to, talk to everybody there. Don, when you speak about healthy masculinity, how do we teach young men that being strong also means being respectful, compassionate, and accountable?
Well, I think it's what Ed just said. Being strong. I always say that is it strong to hide your emotions and be and shut down and self-destruct because you shut down and you don't emote and you don't share, you don't say I need help, you don't say I feel, you don't say I care. So you shut down. You have to shut down because those are all very human emotions. Is it stronger to be honest and speak truth and speak your emotional truth, or is it stronger to shut that down and hide from people and be a coward to those feelings? And so to me, it's very, I always tell people, I don't do hard work. Those guys working on 81 right now and 690 right now, those guys are doing hard work. Those men and women who are out there doing hard work. The people who were shoveling snow this past winter, they did a lot of hard work.
Don't downplay yourself.
I recently met someone from Tug Hill, and she said she's from Tug Hill. I'm like, oh my goodness, when does it stop snowing up there, right? That's hard living. That's hard work. Sure. I do courageous work. And what I mean by that is I do the work that men have not been raised to do, which is saying, I feel, I hurt, I need to work. I can't do everything myself. All those things that are part of how we survive in community, how we survive in relationships, how we get better in relationships. And so to me, real strength is being able to live that courageous life. And that's hard work.
It is hard work.
Absolutely.
On top of all the men and women that are out there doing the other things that you mentioned. So don't ever downplay what you're doing.
Oh no, I'm not downplaying at all. But but truth be told, I don't. It's like I'll give you the football analogy with I was talking with Darryl Johnson, our great fullback from the '80s, and I said, I got a lot of credit as the quarterback, but for every play, my first step is away from the action. Everybody else is going that direction, right? So we all have a different role to play in how we move forward.
And just to add to some of that, you're talking about, our 12 points of the Scout Law. Brave, the little write up behind Brave is bravery is not the lack of fear. It's understanding that you're afraid, but still accomplishing the mission.
Exactly.
So, and that's the big thing is understanding that, I might not be comfortable expressing this emotion, but I need to be brave enough to express it because it's going to be better for all.
Yeah. So as you can see, we're talking to Don McPherson or Don McPherson because we're talking about the pronunciation of the last name. But, I watched you throw the ball. I watched you play on that championship team. I watched all that. It was always Don McPherson. It's like, wow, and Ed Theetge is also here, the executive director of the Longhouse Council right here in Central New York. But Ed, in scouting, older kids often mentor the younger ones. What makes a good mentor?
Oh, geez, a good mentor. Well, I would say that bravery comes into that one a lot too. Because a good mentor needs to be, I would say, a strong presence, but they also need to be vulnerable for the people that are mentoring because they need to express, the reason why I'm talking to you and mentoring you is because I don't want you to make the same mistakes I made. And you need to express and share those mistakes. It's like, this is what I did and I screwed it up really bad. And I want to make sure you never have to do it. Or on the flip side, sometimes I need you to go make that mistake because it'll make you better if you go make that mistake.
See, I like that.
So
because
and I would add to that, I think what's really important for mentors is to be authentic. And young people need consistency. And sometimes being authentic is to Ed's point is, yes, I've made those mistakes. But why did I make those mistakes? And sometimes, or very often, I learned this about myself at a very early age, probably because of my birth order. I'm youngest of 5, so I watched my siblings make mistakes. But when I was inauthentic is when I made my biggest mistakes in life. When I wasn't being true to myself, when I wasn't being, therefore, not honest with the people around me or honest with myself, that's when I made the biggest mistakes in life. And so I think a good mentor is teaching the humility of authenticity.
I believe that 100%. Ed, another one. What would you say to a young scout who wants to be a leader but doesn't feel confident as yet?
So confidence comes with time, unfortunately. You can't, anybody who walks off the street without any knowledge of something that says they're confident to do it is deluding themselves. So confidence comes with time. There's a story I tell about my wife also got involved in scouting as a volunteer for a little bit, and she had to stand in front of a group of people to talk. And she's like, I'm freaking out. I don't know how to do this. I'm just nervous. I'm jittery. I can't do it. She goes, how do you get in front of people and talk? I'm like, well, honey, I've been doing it since I was 12 years old.
That's true. And
because I've been doing it since I was 12, getting in front of people to talk it's just me standing in front of people and talking. But she stuck with it. The first time she struggled, but she's now a supervisor for Department of Transportation stuff. Yes. And she has to do a lot of things where she has to talk to people. And she will tell people, she goes, scouting helped me become a better public speaker. So
there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. Well, you talk about being nervous. Look at me sitting here between these two guys that are twice my size. I'm just saying. But we also
There's
learn a
nothing to
lot
be
from that.
nervous about.
yeah,
No,
not between the two of us.
Exactly.
I don't know, but you know, this is pretty awesome. Don, of course, you know, being in sports, you've been in the schools, you've been in the communities. What do young people need from adults that they're not always getting, in your opinion?
Respect.
100%.
I think we tend to, as adults, always want to say back when I was, and this is how it was when I was, and I think when we do that, we disregard their experiences and the world that we have given them, and so we need to be respectful of young people, and it's hard. It's hard because, you know, the changes in the world
I was just going to say,
from the time that I was 15 to 30 was not as dramatic as the time from I was 30 to now at 60 years old. I mean, the changes in the world just in the last few years are so dramatic. And the way that young people experience the world, interact with one another, interact with the world. You know, one of the things that, you know, I talk about the state of where boys are in our society now, and this is something that scouting was founded on the premise of helping young boys in the early 1900s, right before the 19th Amendment, Industrial Revolution. There was a lot of change going on in the world, and so boys were struggling. And the same thing was true when the YMCA was created in 1844. A lot of changes in the UK. And we've seen this over periods where there's dramatic change. What's different now for young people with all the change and all the upheaval and unrest in our world right now is that the bad influences, you don't have to go to the street corner to find the bad influences. Now the bad influences find our children in ways that, in human history, that those bad influences has active access and influence over young people. And we have to listen to them. We have to understand what that feels like. And we have to engage as adults and respect the world that they're growing up in.
What about, you know, how important, let me put it this way, adults, coaches, parents, scout leaders, teachers, how important is it to model the behavior they want the kids to learn?
I think that's hugely important. I stand by that. I try to live my life. Well, there's a saying that sometimes when as a scout person who is a scout 24/7, 365, you know, I'm human. Sometimes I will have a adult beverage and I might get called out. Well, that's not very scout like. You know, like, well, wait a minute. I'm a scout, not a saint. So
you're human.
But that being said, the 12 points of the Scout Law, you know, we encourage everybody to hold on to those and reflect on them, because if you're reflecting on them periodically, that helps you be a better person. It helps you be a better person in charge. And for me, I always try to be. I never want to be seen doing something that I wouldn't want any of my employees to do or any of my, you know, scouts do. You know, it's very important to model who you want the people you're mentoring to be. It's one of those things that I was say for my wife asked me this the other day. She goes, what are the leaders that you count on as being people that helped influence you? And I said, well, that's a hard one. But I could probably tell you probably 3 people that were my leaders in the past that taught me what not to do. And it was because of the way they were as a leader. So I always want people to, when I'm a leader for either youth or adults, is to recognize that I'm coming from an authentic place and that what I do and the way I live is a good way to be.
Excellent. Scouting, baby. Scouting. And of course, this dinner, again, I'm going to mention this a few times throughout this interview, that it's coming up on May 20th. It's Scout Power, and it's at the Dome. Don, your message for that night will be, tell me, what are you going to speak about? Tell everybody, what can they look forward to?
You know, honestly, I don't prepare too far in advance.
Okay.
But let me just say this about this particular event, and I think it's obviously it's in the Dome, and so that's a special place for me and a special association for a lot of folks to be on that same floor. And I think one of the things that's really profound about that and sort of ironic is that I came up in the work of social justice and social education because I was an athlete, and there was this notion that athletes were role models and all that. And there was also this belief that sports built character and all those great things, and teamwork and leadership and community. And the reality is sports is no longer there for us for all those things. And it's unfortunate. It's something that I've been watching and studying throughout my career, post football, but even during. And now more than ever, when we had such great platitudes around what sports does in community and for young people, and that really is not the case. It's a hard thing to say, but it really has fallen by the wayside over the many years. That makes organizations like Scouting so much more important.
Absolutely.
So much more important because they've been committed to those right things all the time. They have not wavered from that. They haven't given into the money. They haven't given in to the fame. They haven't given into changing values. They've been consistent with their values. And again, for the greater good, not for, who can get the most money or who can, stay in the big time, but for the greater good. And I think sort of the irony of me standing there is that I'm there because of something that I did many years ago. Scouting is there because they've been a stalwart in the community and society for a very long time.
And I could throw a little bit onto that as well. So my son, he's 30 now, but when he was in high school, he would do a hat trick every time he was on the field for soccer. Like amazing. And for a period of time, he was really thinking, maybe I don't want to be an Eagle Scout because I really want to focus on this soccer stuff. And I sat him down and I said, this is a decision that you have to make yourself, but I want you to think about this one thing I'm going to tell you. Someday, and I know it's hard for you to think about when you're 17 years old, but you're going to be 50 and you may be applying for a job. And when you go apply, when you apply for a job and you put on that been team captain for my high school soccer team, they're not going to care. But you put, I'm an Eagle Scout. They're going to be like, oh, tell me more about that. And I think that's the thing that we need to think about is like, you can be an Eagle Scout and people are going to care about that even when you're 50 years old. Right. They're not going to care about the fact that you were the captain of your high school soccer team.
Well,
and not only does 50 come quick, 29 comes quick.
Yeah.
So I played my last football game at 29, and that was a lifetime ago.
Right.
And even though so many people may identify me with that here in Central New York, in Albuquerque, New Mexico, it gets me
nothing. That's right.
And so I still have to show up, right? You still have to show up and do your job and be a good person. And exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so there's something great about sports and our nostalgia, but the reality for young people is there's so many more greater values taught and lifelong. People talk about transferable skills. Mm-hmm. I don't get to behave in my real life as I did as a football player. Right, you can kick somebody in the shins in the huddle and get after them and get after each other the ways you can't do that in real life. And so there are a lot of ways. I used to always say that football was tough, but I didn't stiff on my sister to get to the dinner table. Right. So you have to learn to be part of community, part of family, and be kind and loving and caring and all those other qualities.
Excellent. I want to go a little bit deeper with you in just a moment, but I want you to tell us a little bit more about the dinner that is coming up on May 20th. How can we get tickets? And just give us this, the whole spiel.
So the big thing is this year we moved the date a little bit. So it's May 20th this year because we want to be at the Dome. So we're at the Dome again for the second time in 2 years after a very long hiatus last year. So super excited about being both at the Dome. We moved it to May 20th so that it's a little easier for the Dome. They don't have to compete with graduation. But the event is we're only have a few tables left. Like we're almost sold out. So if you would love to get your own tickets, they are $300 for a seat. And you can go to cnyscouts.org. And right on that page, you'll see Scout Power 2026. You just click on that and you can get your tickets. And it's an opportunity to both come and have an amazing event at the Dome. We have, I believe, last I knew, we were almost at $100,000 in value for auction items. Wow. So there are things that you could just go there, bid on, go home with things for half of what their value is if you really want to, and you're the bidder, or you'll pay twice as much as their value, but it's okay because it's all for a good cause. But there's so many auction items. Don's is going to be an amazing person who's going to be speaking, but I imagine he's going to mingle too, which to me, those are the best ones. I hate every speaker we have that's like, keep me behind locked doors until I have to talk. So it's going to be an amazing night. And, for $300 for a really good meal and a really cool location to help scouting is just going to be, it's a good value. So
it's absolutely a great value. I mean, it's good all the way around.
You get to sit on the floor of the dome and have dinner.
Yeah.
Like you've never been on the floor of the dome, right? I know, exactly.
Not for dinner.
Not for dinner. You've never had like a dinner in the when you were like, I don't know. I'm just
we never.
Fun. So you were the captain of this undefeated team in 1987. What did the team teach you about trust and accountability? Here's the
I talk about that team, and I've been talking about the team for years in lectures because prior to the season, we took a pledge to be alcohol free.
Okay.
And we didn't know then what we know now in sports is the impact of alcohol on recovery and, all that stuff that we know now that we didn't know back then. What we knew then was that we just wanted to have better practices. We wanted guys to not be drunk during practice and hungover and all that kind of stuff. But what it really meant was that we had to, as I say this all the time, we had to love each other differently. And loving each other meant not seeing each other get drunk and falling down drunk and then laughing at each other the next day when someone's vomiting during sprints or whatever. Loving each other meant, hey, maybe it's time to go home.
Right.
Loving each other, hey, maybe it's time, maybe we shouldn't do this. Maybe we should make a better decision because we're committed to each other for something greater than all of us collectively. And so to me, that is, and I go back to what I said earlier about sort of the state of college football. I'm on a 2 or 3 different text threads with some of the same guys, but there's probably about 25, 30 of us who talk on a regular basis.
The guys you played with.
We guys who played. We had a couple of guys on campus this weekend for graduation. Their children were graduating, both undergrad and grad school. There are guys who I've been referenced by their moms because their dads have passed, who were teammates. Hey, call Donnie. He'll talk to you about whatever. We're family, and that's a byproduct of the environment that Coach Mack established. But it was more than anything, and you asked me about that team, and I got a lot of credit because I was a quarterback. I go back and I finally looked at the games probably about 12, 15 years ago. I got all the DVDs of the games. Our defense was incredible. And I didn't think I was that great, but I was not as good.
Come on.
Oh no. Watch it again. That defense, watch what they did to Penn State, watch what they did to Blair Thomas, watch how they shut down just about every back that came through here. That defense was outstanding.
Yeah, well, the quarterback is the leader. That's the way I look at it. I mean, and with football, I just, quarterbacks are expected to lead.
Here's what I've always said. And people always wanted, to this day, people will tell me I should have won the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy is for the best player in college football. There's no such thing. I'm going to set the record straight. Where's the camera? I'm going to look into the camera and tell the people here in Central New York, I should not have won the Heisman Trophy. I was not the best player in my own huddle. You can't say that I was a better quarterback than Darryl Johnston was a fullback. You can't say I was a better quarterback than Rob Moore was a wide receiver, that John Flannery was an offensive lineman, that Robert Drummond was a running back. Exactly. Like you go down the list of those guys, and then you go to the other side of the ball. You're going to tell me that I was a better quarterback than Ted Gregory was a nose guard, or that Paul Fraser was a defensive tackle, or Marcus Paul was a free safety? That Terry Wooden wasn't a linebacker? Are you kidding me? I was not a better quarterback than those guys were at their position. I wasn't. And to say that I was, I know it was nostalgic. I know we want to hold on to that, but that to me is the essence of team. If we want to get back to what team means, if we want to get back to loyalty, right? To loyalty, the loyalty to that team is that we all have a role to play. And we've lost that. We've created stars around things like the Heisman Trophy. The Heisman Trophy is not the best player in football. It's always one or two positions, right? Don't tell me that the best player is always a quarterback. Come on, man. It's like there's 22 people on the field every play. Well, it's not just one guy is better than everybody else. What? It's a silly way of looking at it.
But Don, I mean, I'm not saying the quarterback's the best player, but you're the leader.
Well, that's what. Then change the name of the. I listen. I vote. I MC the dinner for the Maxwell Award. I MC the dinner for the Maxwell Award best player this year. We gave it to Fernando Mendoza because he was outstanding. He was. But that was a team that won. And everyone, by the way, everyone in college football has been asking the question for the last several months: how do we replicate what Indiana did? And it wasn't just because of Fernando Mendoza. Right? It was because of a great defense, because of great receivers who made amazing catches. His receivers caught everything he threw at them. Wow. It was a great team. And again, going back to what we said before about what you don't know in college football until October and November, it's a great team that emerged after several months of being together.
I don't know what to follow that.
I'm sorry.
No, I love that.
I can help you. Exactly. Exactly.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, there was one of the things. So last year, we ended our year for our council with a balanced budget. Really good in membership. Like we were up after years of being down, and everybody's like, "Oh, good job, Ed. Good job." And I'm like, I didn't do anything.
Right.
I'm just the guy sitting here at the top. You guys did all the work. I just gave you the motivation and the support and I'm here for you. So my skill set wasn't necessarily what got us over the top. It was just more my leadership. So I think to what Don's trying to say, which I would have to agree at this point in time, is he didn't deserve it because he was not the best player. He was perhaps the best leader though. But like he said, the name of the trophy says the best player. So I think that's where we go.
Well, I was a big fan in '87. I was right there, and I was probably consuming some beverage, and I was cheering for Don McPherson. We look at it as a fan, like you're a kick-ass player. This guy's got his crap together. This guy's throwing the ball where it needs to be thrown. And yes, you had your running backs. You had all those people doing what they needed to do. So going back to what you're saying here, and it makes a lot of sense, is it's a team. It's a team.
Absolutely.
You did your part.
And let me just add to that team. We had an offensive coordinator named George DeLeon, who is one and passed away a few years ago. He and Paul Pasquale were the coordinators going forward after that '87 team. And to this day, I run into coaches, both professional and college, from a small school like Bowdoin College in Maine to the University of Texas, all in a 2-week span. And both coaching staffs talked about George DeLeon. They talked about his commitment to detail. They talked about his innovation. They talked about and as I said before, I was lucky to be here at a time when I had a coach who was a mad scientist on offense. And we were running 3 different offensive schemes from like 3 different programs, not 3 different schemes, 3 different like complete offenses we were running. We were doing things that nobody else in college football was doing at the time, and that was because of George DeLeon. So he had young people. Last time I talked to him before he died, I got on the phone with him and he said, what I loved about you guys, and I thought he was going to say something about, how great we were as game day, how we showed up and all. He said, you guys love to work. You guys love to practice. You love to get out there and just compete and be. And I mentioned Robert Drummond a minute ago. He was the epitome of that. Practices for Robert Drummond were like game days, and he would come at you full speed, and you try to tell him to slow down as an older guy because you want him to slow down. But we had a bunch of guys who just loved to play, and we loved each other, and that's what you get.
There you go. It's team.
Absolutely.
It's team. God, I don't want you to say too much more because I want people to go to this dinner so they can hear what else you have to say.
This is nothing about it.
I'm not going to start saying, but it's teamwork.
Scout power is not going to be about the '87 season.
No, I realize that, but being a team though, we're a team. It doesn't matter if we're in sports. It doesn't matter if I'm, what I do here at the radio stations or the PR. I mean, it's a team. Everybody has a team.
Absolutely,
and that's what makes you who you are. With that being said, quickly, tell us a little bit about your book, You Throw Like a Girl, The Blind Spot of Masculinity.
So when I retired from football in 1994, I went to Northeastern University to the Center for the Study of Sport and Society to work with a man named Richard Lapchick, whose father integrated the NBA in 1950. He was a white man doing work around racism in sport. And I thought that was going to be the issue that I was going there to work on. I was hired to run a program called Athletes in Service to America. And I quickly learned about all issues of men's violence against women and masculinity, by a guy named Jackson Katz, who had just created a program called Mentors in Violence Prevention. It was the first program to introduce bystander to social issues work, and the first program that was specifically dedicated to get men to speak out, and in particular male athletes to speak out about all forms of men's violence against women. And when I started to do the sort of the casual research, you go out on a Saturday afternoon and go to the bookstore and look for books about that you can learn and can continue to learn about the issue. Everything that I was reading about boys were about boys who had either been incarcerated or was under some sort of supervision or had some sort of mental health issue. And again, this goes back, 30 plus years. There was nothing about me. There was nothing about the privileged boy who grew up with two parents in a home, a pool in the backyard, suburban Long Island, went to Catholic school as a kid, and then on to a public high school, and got an opportunity to come to Syracuse University, and had a very much a charmed life. And yet I still didn't understand what it meant to be a man. I still had never had that conversation about what it meant to be whole or authentic. I still never had that conversation about how I see myself as a man and how I see myself in juxtapose women in relationships and in family. And so there was so much about the conversation around masculinity that was not speaking to me. And I didn't think that I was, someone very unique in that regard. There were so many boys who we just don't have that conversation. And I use the word privilege because one of the greatest privileges that a lot of people have is to not examine their own lives. And so as a man, I never examined. It never mattered to me to examine what it meant to be a man. And this is the way that I talk about privilege. I talk about privilege in the way that I go to games at the Dome. And Pete Sala is a good friend. He runs everything up there. And I went to a basketball game earlier this year because I wanted to see them on the Lawrence Moton. And Pete said, "Hey, park in the loading dock and come right in." I parked. The loading dock doors are here.
Wait a minute, you get to park in the loading dock?
Hear me out. The stadium control door is here. Jim Boeheim is parked right here. You know where I parked? Right in front of the door. Now, granted, I came after him, but I parked right there. I walked in. The same guys were at are in stadium control. I walked in and ended up sitting right next to Pete and Mike Haney, who's now the chancellor. And I say that's a privilege, right? And I could say that I don't want to give that up. I couldn't give that up if I tried because Pete invited me to park there and all that. But here's what my privilege does. It keeps me from understanding the experience of 40,000 other people and my place in that community. And so as a boy, when I started doing this, or a young man, when I started doing this work, I realized that my privilege as a man to not examine masculinity kept me from understanding not just myself, but the people around me and the women and girls in my lives who I just sort of took for granted my role as a man. And so the book is an examination of that. It's an examination of my success as an athlete and how it led to a lot of the work that I do, but also the examination of how we have not been very deliberate and intentional in how we raise boys.
And how did you come up with "You Throw Like a Girl"?
When I first started doing the work and I learned about issues of men's violence against women, I started asking men and boys of every demographic across the board, every nationality, both in the U.S. and abroad, what was the worst insult you could ever hear as a little boy. And I would always reference the film The Sandlot, which is one of my favorite movies.
Oh my God, one of the great ones.
Right? It's an innocent film. There's no cursing, there's no sex, there's nothing. It's a very innocent, truly Americana film, right? And one of the most profound and powerful moments is when boys from another part of town challenge the Sandlot boys. They come onto and they're clearly they have bicycles, uniforms. They're not like the Sandlot boys, right? And it's a confrontation. They're throwing all kinds of insults back and forth. And then finally, the ultimate insult, the gauntlet gets thrown down. "You play ball like a girl." Right. And the next line is, what did you say? And then it's "Tomorrow I'll feel noon." Right. And so that language that we hear as boys, and again, across every demographic, says two things. And the first thing it says is "man up." Right. But what's implicit in that statement or that challenge and that charge you're saying is that women and girls are less than. And if you believe that another group of people are less than categorically, it's going to lead to violence against that group, disregarding their rights. And we do that and teach boys that fundamentally, the way in which boys learn what it means to be a man degrades women. And I actually had a football player once, Vanderbilt University, said to me, because I had the book followed the lecture, "You Throw Like a Girl." I had a football say, "Well, what if your son threw like a girl? Wouldn't you do something about it?" And I said, "I'm not going to make my son better by degrading my daughter." And so it's an incumbent upon us as men to come up with more positive, more loving, more progressive language about what it means to be a man, because we've been learning it in a very, very dangerous way.
I'm going to bring the book with me.
All right.
Scout Power. I want you. I'm
All
gonna
right.
have you sign. You will.
There'll
you
be
will
a couple books at Scout Power.
Nice. I
Yeah.
was going to ask.
Yeah.
I was going to ask because
Yeah.
you're going to have some books there.
There'll be a few.
Absolutely. And you know, when people come to hear you speak at Scout Power on May 20th, and by the way, we'll talk about getting those tickets once again here in a moment. But what is it? What do you hope that these individuals that come and hear you, your message? What do you hope they get out of that?
A sense of urgency that you know, I can talk very specifically about this Central New York community, and again, I moved to Syracuse 3 years ago, but I've been a part of this community for 40 years, 40 plus years, and I've been watching it and very closely and been involved in a number of things. The impact of the change that's happening now very slowly is going to be, you know, just so fundamentally changing the region. And because of that, to preserve the region, the folks who are here and care about here need to come together now. And I talk about the intersection, elevating the intersection. Come together now to preserve the sense of community, because people are going to come from the outside.
Sure,
people are going to come from the outside and try to pick off pieces of business and real estate and other ways in which they can be part of the growth. And I really believe that, and I think the other part of that message is, and that's more of acute to Central New York. We are in a really difficult time right now with the divisions in society and the world, and it's not like, you know, when we were younger, how much of us really knew the geopolitics of the day, how much of us knew what the president of the United States was saying on a regular basis, how many of us knew what threats were shaping up around the world. Our young people know this now,
which is pretty scary.
And so we have to respond. Exactly. Yes. We have to respond because they're watching us. They're watching, and this is why I say that we have to respect what they're watching. They're watching our silence. They're watching our inability to reach across, not just political aisles, but to reach across to neighbor. They're watching us and our inability to love each other the way that we told them they're supposed to love thy neighbor.
The way we were brought up.
That's right.
100%. Don McPherson. Wow. Woo. But it's all, you can hear the rest of this or hear a whole lot more. You can say hello to him. You bring the book, he'll sign it. Pick up a book there, he'll sign it, which is coming up on May 20th. Where can we go to get those tickets?
You go to cnyscouts.org. Right on that landing page, you'll see something that says Scout Power 2026. Click on that, and it gives you everything you need to know.
Love it. You know, one thing before we close, I actually had Don on my Skip Happens podcast, came into the neighborhood, and my neighbors knew you were going to be in the neighborhood that night. I'll never forget this.
The neighborhood lit up. It was fun.
Neighborhood lit up green. We have all those permanent Gobi type lights. And when you walked out of the house and I looked around, I said, the neighborhood's green. And one neighbor's going, no. It was so nice. And I thank you for doing that. You're such a gentleman, and you're so generous with your time, and you're giving back to the community. Now being tied in with the Boy Scout or the scouting. I keep wanting to say Boy Scouts.
All right, we'll always be the Boy Scouts, but we're Scouting America now.
Scouting America. I mean, just that even puts you up on another level. You were already up here, but you know, talking to our youth and the boys and girls in scouting, and you know, it's all about leadership, and there's nobody better than somebody that, you know, knows Syracuse, somebody that led an award-winning team, you know, than Don McPherson. So I want to thank you both for being here today, hanging out with us. Man, I feel so motivated. A little nervous sitting in the middle again, but that's okay. I mean, these guys, but I guess they're harmless. So
I would say 100% we're harmless. Yeah.
So make sure you check out Scout Power. If you keep it, even if you can't make it, want to make a donation to the scouting, please, you can get all the info off the website. If you are going, you're going to see Don there giving the, the speech.
The auction is actually available online. You don't have to attend.
Oh, there you go. Is it up? Is it live now?
Yes,
it is.
Yes.
All right. And the website one more time.
It's cnyscouts.org.
Perfect. Thanks for coming in, guys.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Great to be here.